Hi, I'm happy to join once again medical student whom join us in this series of lecture in the physiology of cardiovascular system. Our lecture today is the ECG. Before they go to the ECG, there's reference for ECG when studying the lectures, and we will summary what's the previous lecture we take in the summary. Cardiac cycle is a sequence of events in one heartbeat. The blood is pumped throughout the entire cardiovascular systems in the cardiac cycle. Systole is a contraction phase, usually referred to the ventricular contraction. Diastole relaxation phase. The atria and ventricular are filling, last longer. While stroke volume, as we know, amount of the blood ejected from either ventricles in a single contraction, stalling low of the heart state, the degree of cardiac muscle stretch can increase the force of ejection of blood and force of contraction. So more blood filling the ventricle is the more contraction, more stroke volume. While cardiac output, as we know, is amount of blood per liter pumped through the cardiovascular system per minute. And this is a famous equation, cardiac output stroke volume times heart rate. This is the summary. While in the conduction system structures and function, as we know, SA node is the dominant pacemaker of the heart located in upper portion right atrium. Intrinsic rate, as we know, is the 60 to 100 beat per minute, while internodal pathway or atria is direct electrical impulse between SA node and AV nodes. Atrioventricular node, AV node, part of AV junction tissue. Slow conduction creating a slight delay before impulse reach the ventricle. Intrinsic rate of the AV nodes is the 40 to 60 beat per minute, while bundle of his transmit impulse to the bundle branch located below that the AV node. Left bundle branch block conduct impulse that lead to the left ventricle, while right conduct impulse that lead to the right ventricle. Purkinje system is a network of fibers that spread impulses rapidly throughout ventricular wall, located at the terminals of bundle branch. Intrinsic rate of ventricle is the 20 to 40 beats per minute if it's discharged spontaneously. While properties of cardiac cell, as we know, is the automaticity, excitability, conductivity, and contractility. What automaticity is generate electrical impulse independently without involving the nervous system. As we discussed, nervous system, it modify, control, either accelerate or inhibit. While excitability responds to electrical stimulation. Conductivity passes or propagate electrical impulse from cell to cell through the junction gap or intercalated disc. Contractility shortness or shortens in a response to the electrical stimulation. Electrical conduction system of the heart is either depolarization and repolarization. The depolarization is electrical charge of the cell is altered by shift electrolyte on either side of the cell membrane. This change stimulate muscle fibers to contract, while chemical pumps re-establish an internal negative charge as the cell return to the resting state called the repolarization. That's enough to summary the previous lecture. When study ECG, we have to overview what ECG, the objectives of coming lectures is the what ECG, overview of performing electrocardiography on patient, and the what simple physiology and interpretation of normal subabnormal ECG. So just to remind you, the impulse from SA node, atrial muscle, to AV node, bundle of his left and right bundle, branch, and ventricular muscle. This is the phases of action potential. Zero phase is rapid phase of depolarization influx of sodium, while the early phase of repolarization 1, calcium and the imine, chloride and potassium efflux, while the calcium is the for plateau phase, which is a prolonged phase, and down is that the phase 3 is the due to that the potassium efflux outside is the repolarization, rapid phase of final phase of repolarization, then the phase starting, which is resting phase. And this is the electrolyte. You can read it in this table, electrolyte change in the channel during depolarization and the repolarization. What ECG? ECG is a tracing of electrical activity on the surface of the body. So the heart generates activity due to the action potential and contraction and movements of this ion, and this electrical activity is spread on surface of the body. So we cannot record all the electricity on all the surface, but we select certain places to tracing that the heart's electrical activity, what's called electrocardiogram. What the electrocardiography benefit? A recording of electrical activity of the heart over the time. It's a gold standard, very essential, very important for diagnosis of cardiac disease like arrhythmias and other cardiac disease. Help to detect electrolyte disturbance like hyperkalemia, hypokalemia, hypocalcemia, and so on. Allow for detection of conduction abnormalities. Also screening tool for ischemic heart disease during stress test, ECG during exercise. Helpful with non-cardiac disease, example pulmonary embolism or hypothyroidism. Look how important this ECG, that is why we will study the principles of ECG. ECG have a paper really, and this in a constant speed in 25 ml per second, the standard speed of ECG. Have a paper. This paper in which tracing have a small square and big square. The small square, each is 5 small square, this is a big square, the big box. This big box have 5 horizontal and 5 vertical. The horizontal, each box is the transverse small box is the 0.04 second or 40 millisecond. This is each small box there 0.04 second. 5 of them equal 0.2 a second. While vertically each small square is 0.1 millivolt, and the 5 this equals 0.5 millivolt. So that the ECG of the electrocardiography is a paper, special paper for recording the tracing, and have large boxes, small boxes, vertical and transverse. For the time, transverse and vertical for the voltage. Each small square 0.04 second. So 5 small boxes is there 0.2, while vertically is the 0.1 millivolt and 5 equal than the 0.5 millivolt. The ECG really recording like a galvanometer. Put electrode there, and the recording like a galvanometer. A simple galvanometer really start as a galvanometer in 1989 or at the end of 19th century. So record of the ECG on the surface of the body in a certain lead, certain record, certain sensors. There is a limb leads called lead 1, lead 2, lead 3. This is a lead 3, sorry. Lead 1, lead 2, this is a lead 3. Each of leads are bipolar. What means it is a required two sensor on the skin to make a leads, that one positive, one negative. If one connect to a line between two sensors, one has a vectors of electrical activities. Not measures all the electrical activity, only main vectors. There will be a positive end at one electrode and negative at other electrode. We will see. This is what called the two sensor leads. This is a limb lead. Lead 1 connect right arm to the left arm positive and right arm negative. The electrical, this is a lead 1. And lead 2 from right arm as negative to the left foot or left leg. This is a lead 2. And lead 3 left arm to the left leg. Left arm here as a negative, while left leg always as a positive. This triangle is called ا.م.د triangle, which is first described in at the end of 19th century. So this is a limb lead. Lead 1 record electrical activity. The electrode they're negative leads and they're positive. The sensor and from right arm to the left arm, right arm to the left leg is the lead 2, left arm to the left leg is the lead 3. So this is a ا.م.د triangle. These are directions of electrical vectors or electricities from right arm to the left arm lead 1. Right arm to the left leg is the lead 2. Left arm to left leg is the lead 3. Look to the heart from the different aspect. We will see a different view. This is on the surface of the body. This is the ا.م.د triangle or limb lead, standard limb lead, what called bipolar. Each lead have two poles, negative and positive. And this is the three leads on the surface, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3. Really look to the heart into the inferior surface of the heart. So the elements of a standard limb lead, bipolar limb leads, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3. Left arm, right arm. Left leg, right leg. Left leg, left arm. Look to that the lead 1 really lateral wall of the heart, while the other two is inferior lead of the heart. Other leads is the bipolar, unipolar, augmented limb leads. This is another limb lead from right arm, left leg, but there is no negative arm positive. It's connected to the central part as a negative. So this is a right arm to the center. This is the AVR called, left arm called AVL, while this is the AVA and VL. This is the AVF, this is AVL, and this is AVR. This is called augmented limb leads. So we have a 6 limb lead, 3 bipolar limb lead, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3. Lead 1 look to the lateral surface of the heart, lead 2 and lead 3 to the inferior surface. While augmented limb lead, unipolar, right arm to center, left arm to center, left leg to center, with AVL, AVR, AVF. This is the element of augmented limb lead, where is positive view of the heart. AVR, the positive right arm, and looking to the central part of AVL to the lateral wall, AVF to inferior wall. So lead 1, lead AVL to the lateral wall. Lead 2, lead 3, AVF to the inferior wall. There is another 6 leads. Look to that the chest, this is a sternum, and this is right parasternum and the left parasternum, and this is intercostal space, anterior axillary line, and the mid-clavicular line, anterior axillary line, mid-axillary line. And the leads of chest lead, what's called, or V leads or anterior leads, the electrodes put into the fourth intercostal space right and fourth to the left V2, while V3 in between. This is that the fourth and fifth, and then that the anterior, mid, anterior and posterior axillary line, and this is that the V4, V5, V6. This is what called chest lead, anterior leads or V leads. So V1 ila V6. This is in fourth intercostal space right to sternum. Look to the septum of the heart. V2 fourth intercostal space to the left of sternum, septum of the heart. That's why any change and infarction there, it will be seen in the V1, V2. V3 directly between V1, V2 to the anterior, so that in anterior wall myocardial infarction, the ECG change, it will be in V3 to the V6 or V5. V5 or that the chest lead 5 in the fourth in the fifth intercostal space at the left midclavicular line, anterior wall of the heart, while V5, V6 is the level with that the fourth at the left anterior axillary line, level with the fourth in that the left mid-axillary line. Both of them, V5, V6, look to the lateral wall. Just to remind you, inferior wall, lead 2, lead 3, AVF. Lateral wall is the V1, AVL, and the V5, V6. Lead 1, AVL, and the V5, V6. While the septum, V1, V2, anterior wall, V3, V4, V5, even V6, this anterior wall, will record any change, ischemia, infarction in this ECG. Look that when recording all leads of the heart, look to the heart from all aspects, anterior, posterior, lateral, inferior, and the septum of the heart. This is to see how to look to the heart from the different plane and recording. This is the lymph lead, lead 1, lead 2, and lead 3. This is a lead 2, this is a lead 3. AVF, this look to the heart from the inferior, while lead 1, V5, V6, AVL, look to the lateral wall of the heart. And from V1 ila V2 for the septum, and V3 ila V to the V6, this is the anterior wall of the heart. So looking to the heart on recording ECG from whole plane in the chest. Just to remind you, lymph lead, bipolar, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, unipolar lead or augmented lymph lead, AVL, AVR, AVF, transverse or chest lead or the V leads or the anterior plane leads is the V1 to the V6, what's called chest leads. This is the conventional 12 leads for recording ECG. By the way, we can even put a lead, the same lead put in a right side. For a time being, let us know that the 12 conventional leads. This is the lymph leads, by this triangle of Einthoven's triangle. By the way, the right leg is the put sensor there like ground, neutral. Is the ground or neutral, not recording any more electrical activity. Bipolar lymph leads record voltage between electrode place and wrist and legs. Right leg, and this is the right leg is the ground. Lead 1 record between the right arm and left arm. lead 2 right arm left leg, while lead 3 left arm left leg. This is that the how recording the ECG. Recording wave, interval, and segment. As we know, P wave is that the atrial depolarization, and QRS complex is the ventricular depolarization, while T wave is that the ventricular repolarization, and the atrial repolarization not recorded there because this is a big wave and it's negligible, and the small electrical activity not recording in the surface of the body. There is a PR interval, and there is a QT interval, and there is a segment, ST segment. This is important. We will see it in the future. This is a real ECG on the paper recording that the P wave due to that the atrial repolarization, depolarization, and then contraction, ventricular repolarization and contraction, and depolarization. U wave you see in some ECGs, we will discuss it if it's coming. See that there's a big square, big box, this is a large box. Small box, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The transverse is a time. Horizontal, this is a horizontal is a time. Each small box 0.04 second. So 5 box is the 0.2 second. While this is 0.1 millivolt is a vertical, and the 5 equal to that the 0.5 millivolt. This is 0.5 millivolt, and this is a 0.5 second, and the big square and the large boxes is the 0.2 a second. The interval that we will also measure that the QRS complex, QRS complex interval, PR, we will measure that the ST segment interval, and that the characteristic either it's up, down, or this line called isoelectric line. Isoelectric line. This called isoelectric line. So that is so much for this. This is another ECG paper and the same waves, interval, and segment. There is 3 distinct waves are produced during cardiac cycle. The cardiac cycle produces 3 major waves. P wave caused by atrial depolarization, QRS complex caused by ventricular depolarization, while T wave results from the ventricular repolarization. So that the P wave depolarization of both atria. Relation between P wave QRS complex distinguish various cardiac cycle arrhythmias. You will find that important relation every P wave QRS complex. P wave shape and duration indicates some abnormality. We will discuss it in the other lecture. PR interval, we say there is a wave and interval. PR interval from the P wave to the onset of a QRS complex. Normal duration is the 0.120 and 2. It means that the 3 small square horizontal to the 4 small square, which is equal 120-200 milliseconds, while 0.12 or 2 second. Either it is 3 to 4 horizontal, this is a normal. If it's less than, called short. If it's more than, called long duration of PR, which is first degree heart block. Represent atria to the ventricular conduction time through that the his bundle. Prolonged PR interval more than 4 small boxes, or more than 0.2 and second. So this is mean there is the first degree heart block. QRS complex is a ventricular depolarization, large than P wave because of muscle mass of the ventricle. and there is a large electrical activity there. Normal duration is that the three small squares. That's the 3 small squares, 0.08 to 0.12. From 3 to the 2 to 3 small square. Its duration, amplitude, shape are useful in diagnosis cardiac arrhythmia, ventricular hypertrophy, MI, electrolyte abnormalities. While what's meant by Q wave greater than 1/3 of height of the R wave. We measure R wave by squares or is a vertical square. So it's Q wave. It's pathological. Normally it's present, but it's the greater than 1/3 of this is the pathological Q wave, while the physiological less than 1/3 of the R wave. Greater than a small square, small box, are abnormal and may represent old myocardial infarction. Look, if the Q wave is present, like this is a Q wave. This is a Q wave. Look to the Q wave. If its depth is the 1/3 of this R wave, so it's abnormal. If its duration horizontal more than a small box, it's abnormal. Otherwise, it's shorter and duration, it's normal. Well, if it's abnormal, what indicate Q wave? Indicate the old myocardial infarction. What ST segment? Connect the QRS complex and T wave duration to from the 2 to 3 small squares. And T wave represent repolarization or recovery of ventricle. Interval from the beginning of QRS complex to the apex of T wave is referred as the absolute refractory period. What mean by the periods in which the heart, whatever the stimulus is coming, it's not redischarging. QT interval measured from beginning of QRS complex to the end of T wave. Normal QT interval is about 0.4 seconds prolonged. But the QT interval related to the heart rate. That is why there is a number of equations is corrected due to the heart rate called in the ECG record corrected QT interval. And once again, depolarization is of the atria is that the yellow and give the P wave, and this is the P wave as depolarizations of the atria. While the depolarization of the ventricle, they give the QRS complex. And we discussed this interval and the other waves. Segment also interval. This is the ECG. Thank you so much for the participation and listening. This is the end of our lectures today.